So some very worried people there, Mark. How worried should they be, having done that investigation, all those people you spoke to?
Well, I was surprised. I mean, that's truly shocking in terms of the cyanide and the release. We have spoken to Public Health England. They have said that if there are people there who are suffering some kind of nasal irritation, skin, eyes, coughing or chest pain, then what they should do is contact the NHS 111 and actually get some advice from them. And they've specifically said that they've done a risk assessment in that area and they have determined that the levels are very, very low, and because the way that the smoke came out of the building, it did go upwards and not downwards, and therefore those risks, and they are continuing to monitor that.
That's short term. Will they monitor into the future? How would they be able to tell long-term effects?
Well, that's one of the major problems, is, of course, that they can look at it on a day-to-day basis, and we don't know. Certainly in terms of the firefighters who are going back into the building, the position is that they themselves had people on the ground testing to make sure that it was safe for them to return back into the building, that they were at suitable levels, and, of course, they will go to fires in the future, so it's very difficult to say that it happened in relation to Grenfell. The majority of those people who are there won't suffer anything. You know, those short-term effects won't grow into anything longer at all. And the fire brigade union said that they had an independent scientific advisor who was there, and they continue to monitor that within the area. And there are lots of gases are given off, and we've seen in relation to the cyanides, you know, that is very, very worrying. But I think there's some very clear advice out there. If you are worried, go and ask.
Of course, people are looking for someone to blame and saying, how was this cladding ever put on there? How did it ever pass building regulations? Who is at fault?
Well, it's a really difficult one, and of course it's now subject to a police investigation and also a public inquiry. So as a result of that, it is limited to the amount of people who can talk and those people who obviously have got some questions to answer. In relation to the contractors, Ryden, they've said that the building met fire regulations and that also was passed by the council, and of course that will be a very important question for the public inquiry to answer, as well as the police investigation, who have now come out and said that they are investigating it in relation to potential corporate manslaughter. And we've also spoken to Celotex. They're the manufacturers of the installation, and they are saying that the installation that was used meets European standards, and therefore that is obviously why it's on. But what we don't know is whether there are other materials on that building which also added to the toxicity of the pollution that came out. And I think in relation to the long term, we don't know why all the people died. We have an idea of some of them. That's now subject to a coroner's inquest. And moving forward, I think there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and the hope, of course, for the residents is that those will be answered by the public inquiry and by the police investigation. The major problem, and I know this is one that has been raised, is that corporate manslaughter does not carry a custodial sentence, so you're looking at fines.
Mark, appreciate that. Thank you very much indeed.